Hi everyone, thanks for joining our SCA webinar. My name's Nick and I work for Pay with Bolt. We help software vendors connect to payment providers via one API. And we work with a wide variety of payment providers, including many based in the EU. So we're uniquely positioned to help you navigate this new piece of legislation. This webinar is going to last about 15 minutes and the session is aimed at software vendors, but should also be helpful if you are a merchant. So we're going to talk about what's happening, why you should care, what you need to do, and how you can support your merchants with the changes that are coming in just a few months' time. Feel free to email your questions or set up a 15-minute session with us on the links below. Or if you want to fill in the form on this page, you can also keep up to date with our most recent SCA posts and webinars that'll come straight into your inbox. So I'm going to just screen share with you now, and we will jump straight into the content. So SCA, EU regulation that'll be enforced on the 14th of September 2019. That is just 10 weeks time. And SCA stands for Strong Customer Authentication. The intent of the legislation is to make e-commerce more secure. So I'm going to give you a little example now. If I want to buy something online using a card or even a bank transfer, I'll have to go through an extra layer of security process at checkout, so such as 3D Secure. You may have seen it before if you're a consumer, where you get sent to a page, your bank asks you to enter a passcode. Once you've entered that passcode successfully, your bank will then allow a payment to be made against your debit or credit card. So currently the use of 3D Secure is decided by the merchant. However, from September 14th, all EU banks will assess whether they require it before they approve a transaction. SCA applies to all EU to EU transactions, but it might spill over to affect international sales to EU customers. For low-value transactions below £30 or €30, 3D Secure will only be required every 5th transaction by the customer. There's going to be some special exemptions for Moto and recurring payments. However, you must flag these correctly, otherwise they'll be rejected for not being 3D Secure authorized. And if you don't take action now, you risk payments being declined as of September 14th. And the reason that you've probably not heard too much about the important changes that are happening and the legislation is probably because payment processors are still working out how to support SCA themselves. And they don't want thousands of merchants or software vendors asking them questions they don't really know the answer to. But the reality is you guys need to be on top of this, and you only have a few weeks to do so. So that's the bad news. Let's jump into some good news. SCA is aiming to reduce fraud and shift that liability of fraud onto the issuing bank. So banks are also improving their 3D Secure process by releasing what they call 3D Secure 2 or 3D Secure version 2. So for this webinar, my key points are: software vendors, you need to make sure that your APIs and checkout flows support 3D Secure. And then secondly, flag those exempt transactions accurately. And for merchants, best thing I can advise you on is just to understand there will be extra friction at the checkout. Software vendors, we recommend that you review every payment provider integration that you have. Ask these questions: does it support 3D Secure? So for example, Authorize.net, they don't support 3D Secure and they are going to be withdrawing themselves from Europe. More on that in a moment. If you support Moto, i.e. phone payments entered by a staff member, confirm that these get flagged up to the payment processor and make sure your payment processor actually passes that flag onto the bank. So for example, PayPal Business Pro doesn't support Moto, so these are going to fail. Stripe, on the other hand, don't currently allow you to flag Moto payments as such and are still upgrading their API. Okay, number 3, if you support recurring payments, confirm you are flagging these appropriately with your payment processor and make sure that your payment processor passes this flag to the bank. So we've heard some mixed reports about recurring payments of variable amounts, what's going to happen to these and how these will be approved without a 3D Secure process. Again, stay tuned to our updates for more information on that. And then finally, 3D Secure is being superseded by 3D Secure 2 on the same September 14th date. However, most payment processors do not support it yet, and it's expected there will be a grace period of about a year to allow that migration from version 1 to 2 to happen. So go and chat to your payment processor about the dates that they plan to support this, and recognize that you will have to do some further development work in upgrading from version 1 to 2. The easiest way to support SCA or a SCA compliant checkout process is to use a hosted process, a hosted checkout process. And if you do that, ensure that you're flagging transactions with the necessary metadata accurately. So your payment provider probably has a hosted process that you can use. And if not, or you would like to use ours, we can provide you with one that works across all of our supported payment processors. Merchants, especially if you're in the EU or have EU customers, make sure all your systems you use to process payments support SCA. If you've built an integration yourself, you'll need to validate it with your payment processor if your integration, to find out if your integration is SCA ready. And just note that your buyers or consumers are going to experience extra friction at the checkout. So consider ways that you can minimize the impact of this. To summarize, here's what you need to do if you're a software vendor. Understand your payment providers, from your payment providers, the steps required to be SCA ready. We're preparing a guide which you can get in future weeks. Number 2, ensure that you are using the latest APIs and checkout flows. 3, prepare your customers, be proactive, prepare your customer service teams to answer questions from merchants about SCA readiness, and ultimately the impact of dropouts and declines at checkout. And then go on to advise your merchants about the extra friction at checkout as well. Ensure that they are using your product as it is intended to be used, so MOTO or recurring SCA exemptions will apply to their transactions, etc. There are a lot of other details about SCA that I'm not going to mention in today's session, most of which are covered in blog articles on our website. Do go and check those out. But I'd like to just take a quick look at some case studies per payment provider, starting with Authorize.net. So major payment processor in the US, also have a presence in Europe. And as I mentioned earlier, Authorize.net are now withdrawing their support for their European merchants and closing their European operations. So they're advising customers to move to another Visa company called CyberSource. The impact of this is a full integration rebuild, new merchant relationships, and business processes for the affected merchants. Stripe, arguably the most popular payment processor for SaaS businesses due to their Stripe Connect product. Their payment API is incompatible with SCA at present, so they are requiring vendors to integrate into their new payment intents API. And so based on our experience, any cards tokenized on the Stripe account under the old API need to be accessed via the old API. And whilst we expect these to still be honored by the issuing bank, it is down to that bank. So Stripe also don't yet have a way to flag MOTO payments, but they've promised to provide an update in their July communications. So that's going to require extra development work, and we'll keep you posted again. Braintree, owned by PayPal, recently launched 3D Secure 2 support. However, this requires changes to your checkout flow. You have to inject a JavaScript file, and the file mandates certain requirements on the way the page is constructed. For example, the JavaScript needs to be bound to the user input prior to entry of the full card number. And this could create some workflow issues for some checkouts. SagePay, popular payment processor in the UK. They've advised us they're working on 3D Secure 2, but they don't have an estimated delivery date other than September 2019. This obviously is creating some scheduling issues, releasing the update so close to the deadline. Again, we'll see how things transpire, and we'll keep you up to date with their latest deadlines. So just finally, to wrap up, if you take a payment in Europe or help others take payments in Europe, it's extremely important that you ensure you are SCA ready. Each payment provider is approaching SCA differently and with different schedules. We work with about 20 payment processors in Europe, and of those, we think maybe 1 or 2 have everything for SCA in place right now. So that means it's an ongoing program of work to adopt changes as they're rolled out. So we are pressing the payment providers on how to address things that we need to know, and we know that you need to look out for. So for example, Moto recurring, 3D Secure 2. So be aware, there may be things that you don't know, that you just don't know yet. And that information will come about. So I'd also say we're a little bit nervous about the progress that some providers are making and seeing merchants switch to another provider just to ensure business continuity come September 14th. So whilst there's a lot of ambiguity on the subject, we are chasing payment providers for updates on a regular basis. Do subscribe using the form below, and we can deliver the latest practical news to your inbox. Now, if you're thinking that you don't want to do all the work, or if you still got questions or want to talk to someone, then do get in touch with us on the link below or on our contact page on our website. We'd be happy to offer any advice and show you our unified solution, what we're doing towards SCA readiness with all the payment providers. And if you'd just like to keep up to date, again, just register with the SCA update form on this page. But yeah, we wish you all the best with your integrations, and just stay tuned for future content and webinars that we'll be delivering on this subject. Take care, guys.